Kuzuzangpola. Welcome to Bhutan e-learning program. I am Vishal Biswa and I am currently working in Mothang Higher Secondary School. Today, I am going to present on the topic quadratic equation. Before I move on with the topic, let me give you the objectives for the lesson. At the end of this lesson, learners should be able to define quadratic equation, solve quadratic equations, identify the nature of roots of quadratic equation, obtain sum and product of roots of quadratic equation, form quadratic equation using roots and other related data. You must have encountered quadratic equation in different phases of mathematical learning. Let me ask you one question. What is quadratic equation? Well, quadratic equation is an equation with one variable and the highest power of the variable is 2. Now here, to understand the meaning of quadratic equation, you have to understand 2 points. Those are, the quadratic equation consists of one variable and the highest power of the quadratic equation is 2. So these 2 points are very, very important to understand the meaning of quadratic equation. Now let me give you some examples on quadratic equation. Let's understand with some example. X squared plus 2x minus 5 is equal to 0 is an example for quadratic equation. This quadratic equation is in the form standard form. Here, this example qualifies to be a quadratic equation because the variable is x and the highest power of the function equation is 2. So degree of the equation is 2. This is one example. X plus 1 whole multiplied to x minus 3 is equal to 0. This is also an example for quadratic equation. Here the variable is x, though the degree is not visible directly. But if you simplify this quadratic equation, the highest power of the equation will be 2. Hence, this is an example for quadratic equation. And this equation is in the form factored form. Third example, x minus 5 whole square minus 5 is equal to 0. This is also an example for quadratic equation. Here, the variable is x and the highest power of the variable is 2. That is, the degree of the equation is 2. These are the examples of quadratic equation. I hope you will be in position to identify quadratic equation from other equations. Now, let me move on with solving quadratic equations. Now, quadratic equations can be solved in using different methods. You must have learned different methods in your lower classes. Now, let me explain you what is solving quadratic equation. Solving a quadratic equation means to find two solutions of given quadratic equation. Solution of quadratic equation are also known as roots of quadratic equation. Quadratic equation has two roots. Those are alpha and beta. These are the two symbols to represent quadratic equation. Now let us understand how to solve quadratic equation with some examples. Let me give you some examples. Find the roots of following quadratic equation. It means find the solution of quadratic equation. First question, you have x squared is equal to 0. This is a quadratic equation and you have to find two roots of this quadratic equation. I have x squared is equal to 0. Now tell me, how you are going to solve this equation? Normally, we solve this equation by taking this root this side. When I take root this side, so x will be equal to root of 0. If you compute the value of root of 0 in your calculator, you are going to get 0. Therefore, x will be equal to 0. But this is a quadratic equation. Quadratic equation has two roots. Therefore, this equation is considered to have two equal roots. Those are alpha is equal to 0 and beta is equal to 0. Example 2, I have x minus 4 whole square is equal to 0. Let me solve this quadratic equation. X minus 4 whole square is equal to 0. Similarly, to solve this question, first you take square in the other side. when I take this one, x minus 4 will be equal to root of 0. To find the value of root of 0, x minus 4 will be equal to 0. Now take 4 to other side. So this here you have minus. When you cross this equal to sign, this will become plus. So x will be equal to 4. So I have one solution, but this equation is also an example of quadratic equation. So this will going to have two solutions. Those are alpha will be equal to 4 and beta is equal to 4. Example 3, I have x square minus x minus 72 is equal to 0. If you see the form of this quadratic equation is given in standard form. So I have x square minus x minus 72 is equal to 0. This is in standard form. So in lower classes, you studied how to solve this quadratic equation. To solve this quadratic equation, first of all, you have to factorize the quadratic equation, then only you have to get the roots of quadratic equation. Now let me teach you method to factorize the quadratic equation. Now in this case, the coefficient of x square and coefficient of x are very small number. Here the number is not visible, it means the number is 1. Here 1. So since the numbers are very small, you can use sum and product rule method. So let me identify my product, let me identify my sum. So what is product? You are going to multiply coefficient of x square with constant term. We are going to multiply this two. So product is 1 times negative 72 will be equal to negative 72. Here sum will be is the coefficient of x. I have coefficient of x is negative 1. So sum is equal to negative 1. Now to factor this quadratic equation, you have to get two numbers. You get two numbers by factoring my product, that is negative 72. Let me start factoring negative 72. 1 times 72 is equal to 72. Can you use this 1 and 72 to get negative 1? I don't think so. 2 times 36 is equal to 72. Now can you use these two numbers to get 72? Still you cannot get negative 1. 3 times 24 is equal to 72. Can you use this two number to get negative 1? Still you cannot use this two number to get negative 1. Okay, let me proceed. 4 times 1, 8. 18 will be equal to 72. So can you use these two numbers to get negative 1? Still you cannot use. Let me proceed. 72. 5 is not factor of 5. So 5 is not factor of 72. 72 is not factor of 5. So 6 times 12 is equal to 72. Can you use this two number to get negative 1? Still no. Now let me proceed. 8 times 9 will be equal to 72. Now you check these two numbers. Can you use this two number to get negative 1? Yes, you can use these two numbers. For example, negative 9 plus 8 will be equal to negative 1, which is my sum, and negative 9 times 8 is equal to negative 72. This is my product. You learn this method in your lower classes. Still, I have two numbers to factorize this quadratic equation. I have negative 9 and positive 8. I can use these two numbers to factorize to solve this quadratic equation. So to factorize this, I am going to take the first term x square, then I am going to take this first number. When I take first number, I have to take in this way 9x. I have second number positive 8, so plus 8x. I am going to take the constant term negative 72 is equal to 0. Now you club first two terms, then you club second two terms. From first two terms, you see that x is common. You take x common from first two terms. When you take x common from first two terms, it will be x multiplied to x minus 9 plus from second two terms, there is no x common. Still there's number common. 8 is common in both the terms because 72 is a factor of 8. So when you take 8 common, 8x minus 9 is equal to 0. Now I have two terms, first term, second term. In both the terms, x minus 9 is common. So taking x minus 9 common out, x minus 9 from first term, x from second term plus 8 is equal to 0. Now I have factored, but I still didn't get the roots. So let me equate the first factor to 0, second factor to 0 to get the roots. So x minus 9 is equal to 0, x plus 8 is equal to 0. So when I take 9 this side, x will be equal to 9. When I take 8 this side, x will be equal to negative 8. Therefore, my two roots are alpha will be equal to negative 9, positive 9. Therefore, my two roots are alpha will be equal to 9 and beta will be equal to negative 8. Example number 4. In example number 4, you have x square 6x square minus 13x plus 5 is equal to 0. Now I have to solve this quadratic equation. I have 6x square minus 13x plus 5 is equal to 0. Now to solve this question, if you see the equation properly, this equation is in standard form. Now to solve this question, you can use sum and product method, but using sum and product method we are going to prove tedious. So instead using sum and product method, we are going to use quadratic formula, and this formula is mostly used quadratic formula in quadratic to solve quadratic equation. I have the formula is x will be equal to negative b plus or minus root of b square minus 4ac whole divided by 2a. This formula is called quadratic formula. Here x equals to, it means it is giving two roots. Those are with plus it is going to give first root, with minus it is going to give second root. Here a, b, c are the coefficient of x square, coefficient of x and the constant term. Before you proceed with the formula, first of all identify the value of a, b, c. In this case I have a is equal to coefficient of x square 6, b is equal to coefficient of x negative 3, 13 and c is equal to 5. Now I can substitute the values of a, b, c in my formula. So x will be equal to negative of negative 13 plus or minus root of negative 13 square minus 4 times 6 times 5 whole divided by 2 times 6. So when I simplify this, x will be equal to negative of negative 13 will be positive 13 plus or minus root of 13 square will be 169. To get the value you can use your calculator, minus 4 times 6 times 5 will be 4 times 6 times 5 is equal to 120. Excellent. 120 whole divided by 2 times 6 will be 12. Now let me simplify further. X will be equal to 13 plus or minus 169 minus 120. What's the answer? You got it correct. It is 49. Root of 49 whole divided by 12. Now root of 49 is a perfect square of 7. Therefore, x will be equal to 13 plus or minus 7 over 12. Now I can use this expression to get the value of alpha and beta. So value of two roots of this quadratic equation. Therefore, x will be that's alpha will be equal to 13 plus, I am going to take plus first, by plus 7 by whole divided by 12. Now, when I simplify this will be equal to 13 plus 7 is 20 over 12. This fraction can be simplified. 4, 5 is 20, 4, 3 is 12. So, I have first root 3 over 5. Now, let me find second root by taking minus. So, beta will be equal to 13 minus 7 over 12. 13 minus 7 will be equal to 6 over 12. This can be further simplified by cancelling with 6. So, 6 1 is 6, 6 2 is 12. So, 1 over 2. So, I have the two roots. Those are alpha is 5 over 2, 5 over 3 and beta is 1 over 2. I hope you understood. Example number 5. I have 10x minus 1 by x is equal to 3. Let me solve this question. I have 10x minus 1 by x is equal to 3. Before you solve, first of all, simplify this equation. You can simplify this equation by multiply all the terms by x. So, you have 10, so you are going to have 1, you are going to have 1 here. So, denominator, making the denominator same, I am going to multiply here with x, I am going to multiply here with x. So, I am going to have 10x square divided by x minus 1 by x is equal to 3. So, the LCM here is x. So, 10x square minus 1 is equal to 3. These two terms are unlike terms, so you cannot simplify, rather you multiply this one with 3, cross multiplying. So, you are going to get 10x square minus 1 is equal to 3x. So, when I bring this 3 this side, so it will be 10x square minus 3x minus 1 is equal to 0. Now, this became a quadratic equation. To simplify this quadratic equation, you can use formula, you can use sum and product, you can use any method is convenient for you. I would love to use formula here. So, formula I have x is equal to minus b plus or minus root of b square minus 4ac whole divided by 2a. Here the values of a is equal to 10, b is equal to negative 3, c is equal to negative 1. Now, substituting the value of a, b, c in my formula, I am going to get x will be equal to negative of negative 3 plus or minus whole root of negative 3 whole square plus or minus, minus 4a, I have 10 and c I have negative 1. So, whole divided by 2a, in place of a I am going to substitute 10. I hope you understood this. Now, let me simplify this further. X will be equal to negative of negative 3 will be 3 plus or minus negative 3 square will be 9. Negative times negative, here you have to be very careful. Most of the students making mistake in such kind of equations. Here you have to understand that though here you have negative, but here you have another negative. So, when you multiply, because it is multiplied, all three numbers are multiplied. Therefore, negative times negative will be positive. You have to always remember this. You shouldn't make a mistake here. Okay, 4 times 10 will be 40. Whole divided by 2 times 10 will be 20. So, x will be equal to 3 plus or minus 40 plus 9 will be root of 49 whole divided by 20. So, x will be equal to 3 plus or minus root of 49 is 7 whole divided by 2. Now you can get two roots using first root by plus, second root by negative sign. So, I am going to get alpha will be equal to 3 plus 7 whole divided by 20 will be 10 over 20. This can be simplified. 10 1 is 10, 10 2 is 20. Therefore, alpha will be equal to 1 over 2. Let me find second root, that is beta. I am going to get second root by taking negative sign. 3 minus 7 over 20. 3 minus 7 is negative 4 over 20. 4 1 is 4, 4 5 is 20. Therefore, beta will be equal to negative 1 over 5. So, I got two roots. Those are 1 over 2 and negative 1 over 5. This is how you have to solve this question. I hope you understood. Example number 6. 2x square minus 4x is equal to 0. Now, I have the question 2x square minus 4x is equal to 0. This is a quadratic equation. This equation can be solved in a very interesting way. So, in this case, if you see the equation properly, in first term I have 2x square, in second term I have 4x, in between the terms are separated by negative sign. Therefore, in first term and second term there are common terms. So, if you check the numbers 2 and 4, 4 is a factor of 2. So, you can take 2 common. X square and x. So, x is common in both the terms. So, you can take x common. When you take 2x common from first term, x will be remaining. Second term, so 2 times 2 is 4, therefore 2. So, whole will be equal to 0. So, I got two factors. Therefore, to find the roots, first factor will be equal to 0 and second factor will be equal to 0. To solve this, you can divide here by 2, divide here by 2, x will be equal to 0 over 2 will be 0. So, I got the first factor, that is alpha will be equal to 0. Now, you take to this side, x will be equal to 2. So, when I take negative 2 to other side of equal to, so you are going to get negative will become positive. So, I got other factor, other root, that is x will be equal to 2. Therefore, I have beta will be equal to 2. Hence, the factors of this quadratic equation are alpha is equal to 0 and beta is equal to 2. I hope you understood how to find the roots of this quadratic equation. I have one question for you. Let us try this question together. Okay, I have the question x square plus 1 is equal to 0. You help me in solving this one. First, what you are going to do? You will take 1 in other side. When you take 1 in the other side, plus will become minus. Therefore, x square will become negative 1. Now, again I have to simplify further. So, when I take square the other side, it will be root of negative 1. I am going to give you some time for you to compute the value of root of negative 1. So, what you are getting? You are getting mathematical error in your calculator, because the value of root of negative 1 is not defined mathematically. Now, 400 years ago, mathematicians came across this kind of equations. So, even they found themselves unable to solve this question. Therefore, they realized the real numbers are not enough to meet the needs of human in general, mathematics in particular. Therefore, they thought of extending number system. So, they proposed for one number, that is I, having the properties I square plus 1 is equal to 0, I square is equal to negative 1, I is equal to whole root of negative 1. Using this concept, here I is called imaginary number. They introduce one more number that is called, in number system, that is called imaginary number. Now, using this concept, this question can be solved. I solved till here. Now, what do you think will be the answer? So, x will be equal to I, because x, the root of this quadratic equation is purely imaginary. Now let me explain you the nature or character of roots of quadratic equation. For example, let me take one quadratic equation, that is ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. This quadratic equation is in standard form. Now the roots for this quadratic equation are defined by alpha will be equal to negative b plus root of b square minus 4ac whole divided by 2a. Beta will be equal to negative b minus root of b square minus 4ac whole divided by 2a. These are the two roots of this quadratic equation. Now this root can be imaginary number, can be a complex number, can be real number, rational number, can be real and irrational number. Now we can examine the nature of this quadratic, the roots of this quadratic equation. The nature of the roots of this quadratic equation is examined by calculating the value of b square minus 4ac. This value is called discriminant of quadratic equation. This value of b square minus 4ac will going to determine the nature of roots of quadratic equation. If a, b, c in the formula b square minus 4ac are real number and a is not equal to 0, then number 1, roots are real and unequal if b square minus 4ac is positive. The roots are rational if b square minus 4ac is positive perfect square. Roots are irrational if b square minus 4ac is positive and not a perfect square. Roots are equal if b square minus 4ac is positive and not a perfect square. Roots are imaginary if b square minus 4ac is negative. These are the ways to examine nature of roots of quadratic equation. Now let's examine nature of this quadratic equation. I have 2x square plus 2x plus 3 is equal to 0. Now to examine the nature of this quadratic equation, you have to find the value of discriminant, that is b square minus 4ac. In this equation, a is coefficient of x square, that is 2, b is coefficient of x, that is 2, c is the constant term, that is 3. Let me substitute the value of a, b, c here. 2 square minus 4 times 2 times 3, 4 times 24. So answer is negative 20. Since the value of discriminant is negative 2, therefore roots of this quadratic equation is imaginary. Now let me teach you how to find sum and product of roots of quadratic equation. Again, let me assume the quadratic equation ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Quadratic equation in standard form. Let's say, let alpha and beta be the roots of this equation, be the roots of this equation. Therefore, alpha plus beta. So I'm adding two roots. This alpha plus beta is called sum of roots. So alpha plus beta is given by the formula negative of b over a. Here b is coefficient of x, a is coefficient of x square. Alpha times beta, this is called product of roots because I'm multiplying alpha and beta. This is given by c over a. Therefore, the sum is obtained by coefficient of x over coefficient of x square, negative of coefficient of x over coefficient of x square, and product of the roots is obtained by constant term over coefficient of x square. This is the way to obtain sum and product of roots of quadratic equation. Now this sum and product are used to obtain the equation of quadratic equation whose roots are given. Now let me teach you forming quadratic equation when their roots are given. Let me explain the topic using this example. If alpha and beta are the roots of the equation 2x square plus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0, form the equation whose roots are alpha plus 1 and beta plus 1. Okay. The given equation is 2x square plus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. This is the given equation. Now from this equation I can find the sum and product of roots of this equation, because roots of this equation are alpha and beta. Therefore, alpha plus beta is given by negative b over a. Here negative b is coefficient of x, so negative 3 over 2. Alpha times beta will be equal to c over a. C here is constant term, 2, a is coefficient of x square over 2. When I simplify this, I am going to get 1. Now I have to find the equation of quadratic equation with the roots alpha plus 1 and beta plus 1. Now to obtain this quadratic equation, you have to use the formula x square minus alpha plus beta, x plus alpha beta is equal to 0. Here alpha is the first root of new quadratic equation, beta is second root of new quadratic equation. They have given us the value of alpha and beta. Alpha will be equal to alpha plus 1, beta will be equal to beta plus 1. When you substitute the value of alpha and beta here, x square minus, in place of alpha you are going to substitute alpha plus beta plus alpha plus 1. In place of beta you are going to substitute beta plus 1, close the bracket, x plus alpha times beta, alpha plus 1 times beta plus 1 whole is equal to 0. Now let me simplify this expression, x square minus alpha, I can rewrite this expression alpha plus beta, 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, x plus, let me simplify this, alpha times beta will be alpha beta, alpha times 1 will be plus alpha, 1 times beta will be plus beta, 1 times 1 will be plus 1, which is equal to 0. Now I formed the value of alpha plus beta and alpha times beta already from the equation, given equation. Therefore, x square minus alpha plus beta is negative 3 over 2 plus 2, x alpha times beta is 1, alpha plus beta will be negative 3 over 2. So I have to write minus 3 over 2 plus 1 is equal to 0. Now let me simplify this. Now to simplify this, you have to make the denominator same. So I am going to get 2 times 2. 2 times 2 will be 4. So I am getting x square minus, so when I make the denominator same, this will become negative 3. So 2 times 2 will be plus 4 x plus, in this term let me make the denominator same here as well. So times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So let me simplify this. So I am going to get 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 1 is 2. Here the denominator is 2. I made the denominator same. So 2 minus 3 plus 2 whole is equal to 0. Now let me simplify this again. X square minus 3 plus 4 is 1. So 1 by 2 x plus 2 plus 2 is 4, minus 3 will be 1, 1 over 2 is equal to 0. To make this one equation in standard form, make the denominator same again. So times 2 times 2. So, my equation will be, denominator is 2, 2x square minus 1 times x is x plus 1 is equal to 0. When I cross multiply, 2x square minus x plus 1 is equal to 0. This is the equation of quadratic. This is the quadratic equation having the roots alpha plus 1 and beta plus 1. So, this is how we form equation using the roots of quadratic equation. Now, I came to an end of this lesson. Before I end this lesson, let us just recapitulate whatever we learned in this lesson. In this lesson, we learned to define quadratic equation, solve quadratic equations, identify the nature of roots of quadratic equation, obtain sum and product of roots of quadratic equation, form quadratic equation using the roots and other related data. I hope you enjoyed my lesson like I did. Till then, stay home and stay safe. Thank you.